Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to take another look at some of the advanced tools we have in the MTPredictor software program, again looking at our Elliott wave analysis. And I'd like to go through an example we had on the NQ yesterday. This is just showing not only how you can analyze Elliott wave patterns at the time, but also how you can use our WPT tool to anticipate areas in advance of where some of the most common Elliott wave patterns are likely to end. So let's have a look at the NQ. For more experienced users, we don't just look at our STF, our trend indicator here. We actually go to the higher time frame chart to place our DPs on the chart in advance. For this, we go to a time frame between 3 and 5 time frames higher. So if you're using daily stocks, you'd go to a weekly chart. If you're trading, say, 15-minute Forex, you'd go to an hourly chart. But as this is a 3-minute chart, I'd go out to the 15-minute chart. Now, these levels are on the chart in advance. They're there before the market even gets there. So what I'll do is I'll just use our training mode here to jump back to, perhaps I can do it even earlier than that to show you. Perhaps I'll jump back to just after this high had been formed. So back here, which was at around about 11:30, 11:45 yesterday, which was 21st September. Just to show you how early you can have these on the chart. What we do is go back to the previous pivot. So we go back to this pivot here. You can see our swings are on the chart for us. We hover over that pivot, we right mouse click, we select decision point from the menu. And there it is on the chart in advance. Can you see it's there before the market even gets there? That's the important point. These are leading indicators. They're there ready for you in advance. Let's just turn training mode off, and you can see that actually nailed the very low of the day on the 15-minute chart, which was very nice. So let's now move down to the 3-minute chart to again see how we could have used that 15-minute chart. What I want to do is I want to go back again in training mode. I want to jump to just about here and just have a look at the market as it was at about 12:30. Okay, this is Eastern Standard Time. So here we have the market declining. You can see that we had a level down here where we anticipate that there could be a potential support. You can see the market hasn't even got there yet. So let's have a look at the Elliott wave pattern going down here at the moment. So we right mouse click over the last pivot, we do Elliott wave intermediate, and this allows our automatic Elliott wave tool to then look at the Elliott wave pattern and say what's the most likely pattern there. We use an isolation approach to Elliott wave. This is my unique way of looking at Elliott wave, where we look at the last swing or the swing in isolation. We don't try and fit it in with other patterns because I've found that doesn't really work. We also look at the most common patterns. We don't try to do any complicated X waves or alternate waves or anything like that just to make things harder for you guys. We want to keep things simple. So here you can see it's found a 1, 2, 3, 4. This wasn't an ideal wave 4 because we weren't at this WPT area of where the wave 4 was likely to end, so this wouldn't be a trade you look to short. But however, what you could do is now use our WP tool to see in advance areas of where, if there was another decline, where that another decline was likely to end. And this is what I want to show you about how you can lead the market. You can be there in advance. For this, we go to WPT. We have WPTs up and WPTs down. You can see here there for the most common Elliott waves, and what I'm doing here is I want one for the wave 5 down. It shows you how many clicks to do, so I click on this. We have a tooltip here which says click at the beginning of wave 1, which will be here, then the end of wave 1 there, end of wave 2, which will be there, end of wave 3, which will be there, end of wave 4, which will be there. Can you see how it's put these levels on the chart? If I zoom in a bit, you can see that they actually have letters or words in them. The first one there is the minimum wave 5 WPT. It's quite a small level, but you can't really see it. The next one, which is the future one, the pink one, is the typical. But can you see how the typical was pretty much at the 15-minute support zone? So you knew in advance that if the market got down there, I'm not projecting it will, that's the wrong way to use Elliott wave. We don't use it to forecast, we use it to prepare in advance for potential trade setups. So here can you see how you're ready that if the market got into large degree support and into this typical wave 5 WPT, there could be a potential reversal. Let's move forward. We come in here. There was a potential buy trade set up there. You wouldn't want to take it because the large view trend was down because it hadn't reached this 15-minute support. We still keep going forward, and then suddenly here, can you see how the market now has reached into our 15-minute support zone, and it has also gone right to our typical wave 5 WPT. That was a really narrow zone there, and it's tagged it absolutely perfectly. It actually entered the 15-minute support zone with high volume. You can see there's a red VSA bar coming in there. That indicates something different's going on. This blue buy bar here then looks like that professionals are starting to enter the market and buyers are overcoming sellers. If you wanted to double check the pattern, you can clear the chart off. You can right mouse click over this pivot and do Elliott wave intermediate again, and there's the full sequence found for you. What we teach at MTPredictor is that once a completed 5-wave sequence, or once a 5-wave sequence is complete, then it's likely to go to the DP from the prior wave 4. So we go back to the prior wave 4, we right mouse click, we select DP, and again, can you see how that's on the chart in advance? Way up there. So how do we build a trade setup around this? Well, as you know, if you've been following us for a while, we use correct position sizing to keep our initial risk small and under control, and for this we have a manual risk reward tool. So you right mouse click, select risk reward, click above the bar of entry, which would be that blue buy bar, click below the bar of entry, which would be your stop price. It's now telling you to set your target price, which would be at that DP level. You can see now that it calculates the number of contracts to keep your initial risk small and under control. Here it's 2% of a sample $20,000 account, but if you wanted to, we actually have the ability here to set up lots of different accounts with lots of different account sizes. We also have the ability to change your risk profile for each of those different accounts, or sorry, each of the different asset classes here, futures, currencies, etc., etc. And then you can just change your account size by that drop down at the top. You can see it changes automatically really easily. So here we're risking 2% of a $20,000 account. We can see at our profit target that the profit would be approximately 3.4 times greater than the initial risk. In other words, a profit of 3 times greater than any potential loss. That's what we like to see, profits that are larger than any losses. Let's move forward. We're now taken into a long trade here. Let's skip forward and see what the market does. It comes up, it comes up, it comes up, right into that level there where you would have come out with a nice 3.4 hour profit. And as you can see, that nailed the low very nicely indeed. If I now turn training mode off, you can see that actually was the very low of the day. If we look at the whole day yesterday, September the 21st, you can see that allowed you to take a long trade off what was the very bar of the very low of the day there. So that was a very nice place to take a trade. But can you see how this decline down here, we anticipated where it was likely to end by using our WPT tool. More importantly, we also anticipated the main area of support where the low was likely to come in, hours beforehand, hours before it got down here. We were ready for this particular support zone. So as the pattern started to unfold, we could then narrow that down a little bit more. We then knew what the typical follow on from a completed 5 sequence was. In other words, the tendency after a completed 5-wave sequence is to go into that DP. We could then build a trade setup in and around that. So that, I think, is a very good example of using our more advanced Elliott wave tools in MTPredictor. Not only are analysing the pivots as they come in, but also using our PT tool to anticipate areas of where these waves are likely to end in advance. Just for your interest, the large view trend was up off this 15-minute DP. Therefore, you wouldn't be looking to take that sell signal because the large view trend was up. So that was the best trade of the day there yesterday, catching the very low of the day there with our wave 5 sequence coming in right at the typical wave 5 WPT at the 15-minute support zone to get a very nice trade there into that DP for a nice 3.4 hour profit. So hopefully that's been a good example showing the more advanced tools that are available, or more advanced Elliott wave tools that are available in the MTPredictor software program.